Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and in this video I'd like to discuss the latest murmurs on the Northern Ireland Protocol as the government give the strong impression that they want something agreed within the next few months, and the Brexit supporting Telegraph suggests that President Biden is putting pressure on the EU and the UK to have something in place for the 25th anniversary of the Good Friday Agreement next April. But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news and politics, please subscribe to the channel and click the bell notification icon. So the outgoing EU ambassador to the UK had a very funny stint to the role. When he was first appointed, Boris Johnson, Prime Minister at the time, refused to even recognise him. This was the early days of Brexit when the government thought it was a good idea to diverge for the sake of divergence and treat the EU like an enemy. Eventually, the government did recognise the role and is now stepping down with optimism in the air. The government's position is now one of engagement, and there's a lot of pressure for Sunak to arrange a final settlement on the protocol. And the attitude is that it's very close. Now, think about it from Sunak's point of view. So he's just become Prime Minister, but his authority is very shaky. In fact, I'll be discussing that again later today. He needs wins, and he needs them soon. He needs to get his MPs on board. The budget this week will not be a win for him. If he doesn't deliver anything before the local elections next May, it'll be a bloodbath for his party. I suspect it would be anyway, but the political wisdom is absolutely to say Sunak needs a big triumph before next May. So what are his options? I actually really can't think of anything beyond a final agreement on the practical implementation of the protocol. But surely, even if there are a few things he could get, none of them are bigger than this. Consider what Sunak gains if he can close an agreement on the protocol. First, he solves the problem that the public will perceive has dogged both of his predecessors for 2 years. That in itself is a win. Second, as long as we actually stick to the terms of it this time, it will mean readmission to the Horizon programme. That is vital for any semblance of post-Brexit scientific research in the UK. That'll actually be pretty big. Third, it may mean that he can get Northern Ireland's Assembly up and running again, although that is very dependent upon how the DUP take to the final arrangements. Fourth, he can advance the pretence that the UK is gaining from Brexit. The UK is attempting to join the CPTPP, which is the Pacific Trading Bloc. An absurd smokescreen because it won't do that much for our exports. It might be better than nothing. But the government hail it as somehow even better than being the EU. Oh, it's worth way more than the EU single market. No, it's not. But anyway, to anyone who understands the first thing about trade, it's utter nonsense. There's no customs union. It isn't a single market. So there's still like hefty barriers to trade. And that's to say nothing of the fact the countries in it are across whole oceans at a time when global transport's really expensive and much of the developed world is trying to cut down anyway so we can actually survive as a species into the next century. But Brexit needs smokescreens to hide behind, and the government reckon they can get some mileage from this CPTPP nonsense. But there are some sticking points, and one of the big ones is our refusal to honour the Northern Ireland Protocol. Apparently, other countries are not that keen on doing deals with a country that doesn't honour their deals with other countries. You know, there are other barriers to this membership as well, but sorting the protocol out would be removing a big one. It would also mean that Sunak's government can re-establish normal diplomatic relations with our European neighbours, which is always a good thing, and he'd even get a welcome boost from the US government. Remember, it's not just about the White House. Republicans and Democrats alike have been vocal in their demands for the UK to sort the protocol out. You know, this is a politically divisive issue in the UK. It is not in America. The Telegraph is currently whining that Biden's putting pressure on both sides for a deal on the protocol before next April's Good Friday Agreement Silver Jubilee. Now, I have to say, I've read the article and I really don't think they offer up any proof for their statement. That being said, everyone knows that both the White House and Capitol Hill have been urging progress, so it is possible. In fact, you would expect them, now that they can smell the possibility that the UK government wants to engage, that there is going to be a little bit of pressure. But personally, I think surely what Biden will want is for Stormont to be reassembled. You know, especially if he does visit. It's rumoured he might visit. That'll be another little carrot for Sunak there, presidential visit. After all, even if Sunak announces a final agreement on the protocol, you think, what will it actually mean? Really, what does it mean if he says he's agreed it? We already have a deal on the Northern Ireland Protocol. It was already agreed. It's in writing. It's part of law. Boris Johnson signed it nearly 3 years ago, and we've been breaking it ever since. We even had an agreement on the approach to the practical implementation. Michael Gove dealt with that in 2020. The world will want Sunak to not just agree terms, but to honour them as well. They'll want to see the UK government implementing the agreement and dropping the disingenuous rhetoric designed purely for their own domestic audience and which everyone else in the world knows is utter tosh. So let's say there were to be an agreement in February. It's hard to see how all of this could be achieved by April the 15th next year. The main immediate sign of progress surely will be Stormont reassembling, if that's at all possible. It could be agreement in February, Stormont elections in March, presidential visit in April. Sunak would get his presidential visit, and with a president who's actually popular in the country this time. So for me, it doesn't really matter if we think that Sunak is a pragmatic Brexiteer who wants to face up to reality and actually engage with the world or not. I actually think he does, personally, but it doesn't really matter. The fact is that Sunak is on for a hiding at the moment. He's narrowed the polls since taking over, but the deficit with Labour is still higher than when Johnson left office. And at the moment, everyone's measuring him against the yardstick of Johnson, not so much Truss. Truss was should we not talk about that? We got rid of her, stop talking about it. So the measuring to, was it right to get rid of Johnson? That's what the Tories are asking. Was it right to get rid of Johnson? His budget this week is not going to improve things. Unlike with Truss, he has at least put in a lot of effort on the PR. You know, they've been laying the groundwork for weeks for the various measures in order to sort of normalise the claptrap that Hunt will spout on Thursday. Hunt himself has been interviewed on the BBC this morning by the Tory liaison officer Laura Kunzberg as part of the final push. But you cannot imagine the public really being impressed with the budget statement when it comes. Especially as it's not even going to have universal support of the Tory media outlets. Sunak needs a big win. That is political certainty. If he doesn't engineer one, he's even worse at politics than I think he is. And I already think he's pretty bad. He needs to be able to say, I achieved what Boris Johnson could not. Can think of nothing other than the protocol for this that is achievable in anything like the time frame he needs. I don't think it'll save him from the local elections where people will be more concerned with their own standard of living than an agreement to stick to an agreement that was agreed years ago. But Sunak would at least be able to sell it as an achievement. It would get people thinking, oh, he could achieve that. Well, maybe he can achieve things for us as well. I mean, when you think about it, all the agreement will be is the UK government sticking to the terms of its own treaty. Calling that an achievement is observing a very low bar. But the government and media have successfully persuaded many in Britain that it's actually quite a tricky problem that they had to deal with. So resolving it will certainly get Sunak his first big win as Prime Minister. And it will unlock lots of other wins as well. It'll allow him to claim that he doesn't just talk but gets things done. This is always a powerful claim for a politician at any level to be able to make. So although we've become accustomed, I think, to disappointment, I do think we're going to see a real agreement. There are no serious technical issues to sort out. I mean, government ministers, including the Northern Ireland Secretary, keep saying, oh, there's loads of things that we didn't expect. Oh, unintended consequences. No, there weren't. There weren't any. Not a single one. You know, there are no technical issues. There are no unexpected issues. The media can pretend there are, but there aren't. Everything was dealt with ages ago. Everything. Although officials do keep working on the issues as if there's still technical arrangements to sort out, they're just eating biscuits and drinking tea. All that's needed is political agreement. And I think Sunak needs that political agreement. Not just wants it, needs it. Next year, think about what's going to happen. I don't even know how bad this winter's going to be. Is it mild? Does he get away with it to a certain extent? We will have to wait and see. But it's not going to embellish his reputation, should we put it that way? The budget is going to be pretty damaging. We're into recession, basically, and it's going to be formally confirmed next year. You know, it's going to be absolutely dreadful year for Sunak next year. You know, and they need something. I think Tory MPs realise they need to start doing something with Brexit because it's all they've really got. I think many MPs see that they're losing the argument and they need to start delivering something real. When we say what the tangible benefits, they need to be able to say, well, this. You know, yes, they persuaded the public that the vaccine rollout was a Brexit benefit, which was a complete lie, failed to be countered by the media. But they know they can't trade on that forever, even though they've convinced people. After all, Sunak became popular through the COVID furlough scheme, but he lost a lot of that popularity once it ended. Sunak, of all people, should understand that a politician's popularity is linked to what they are doing and what they are going to do, not what they have done. You don't get to trade on what you have done as a politician. So Sunak needs this, and so I think we're going to see it happen. But there we are. Those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. I hope you found the video interesting. If you did, please click the like button if you'd like to support the channel further, the join buttons for memberships, and until next time, I'll see you later.